now my life has changed. It's all about oxygen, yes, the raw dairy, but also I've added to that factor carbon. So now I'm oxygen and carbon dioxide, and I find myself in the right place, I hope. I see all this stuff on climate and I think, oh my gosh, what can I do? Oh boy, I shouldn't be raising meat, but then again, maybe I should be. I'm raising, I run a raw dairy, I raise Berkshire pigs and Dorper lamb. And whenever I have an ornery bull or a young bull, he becomes part of the meat. And so then I too have beef. And I think to myself, what can I do to change the carbon situation? What can I personally do? Well, should I sell all my cows? That's not going to do any good, because then they're going to be sold to somebody else. Maybe they'll be slaughtered and they'll die, they'll go back in the ground, or they'll be somewhere else. So I started thinking about it. What seems important to me is it's not carbon is bad, it's where is your carbon? That's how I look at it. And granted, I'm just a mom that tried to help my daughter, and I found myself on a dairy farm, raw dairy farm, which is doing miraculous things for my daughter's health. She's no longer living in the hospital and not on house arrest. And I too, with her immune disorder, I had to raise clean food. Well, going back to the cows, if you will, just because that seems to be a more common scenario, I started thinking about, well, what kind of nutrition am I giving my daughter? First of all, I had to be clean. So I have organically raised animals, and I cannot give them any chemicals because my daughter can't handle it. Same with the pigs and sheep, etc. And I started looking at a beef cow. It gives you about 1,000 pounds of meat. Well, a dairy cow gives you 300,000 pounds of high protein in their lifetime. And I think there's two situations here. One, if you look at the big farms, the industrial farms, that's what's causing a lot of your statements. They come and say, oh, we should reduce beef in our diet, because most people don't have the opportunity to raise small animals and have small farms. I think of hay. If you put hay on the field and is eaten by a cow and it comes out methane gas, that's going to be producing the same amount of methane gas as if it's eaten by a rabbit, as if it's left in the field to rot. I feel that the best process is to return all these farms to small ranches, because the small rancher, what they do is they make it viable for the cow to survive. And then the milk or the meat, etc., it's all very clean. If you don't take care of the animal, you can't return the cycle, full cycle. Let me start again. If you don't take care of what the animal's eating, that brings us down to the grass. If we don't take care of the grass, then we're all going to find ourselves with the emissions that are produced by cars, etc., everything. It just goes into the atmosphere. If we look at other ways to return the carbon from the air back into the soil, one of the number one things you can come upon is ruminants. As a cow or a rabbit eats grasses, there's something called a root-shoot ratio. When they eat a grass, the shoot is shorter. They then drop off part of their root, and all the carbon that comes from the oxygen, from the air, in photosynthesis, they take the carbon dioxide from the air, photosynthesis, they turn it into liquid carbon, it goes down to the roots, then an animal ruminant eats it, they knock off part of their root, and it becomes into the soil, and it feeds the microbes that then they have a symbiotic relationship, and you return carbon to the soil. If it goes deeper into the ground, you sequester it for long periods of time, carbon storage. But the first way to get there, same with memory, you can't remember something long term if it doesn't go into short-term memory. So if we can get into this short cycle of getting carbon back into the soil and then get it further, then we're starting to help the picture. So I'm being told I need to close up here. My take-home message is I strongly feel that if we can look to other farmers that have done the same thing, not just providing the meat, but by taking small farms and you distribute their poop, their manure, I'm not sure what I can say up here, over lots of land. You're increasing the soil's viability, and you're helping with the plants. The more plants you get, the bigger the leaves, the more roots, the more carbon you put back into the soil. They did a wonderful project out in California. It's the Marlin Project, where they took great plots of land and they actually returned dry grasslands back to viable land, and they in turn found that by putting 1 year's of commercial dairies manure on, spreading it out over the fields, they increased by 40% their carbon return to the soil. So if you find these big industrial plants, I think that the dairies, et cetera, or beef factories, you find that their waste is a huge problem. But if you put that waste, if it's all confined, it's waste. If it's all spread out, it becomes a fertilizer, and a good fertilizer, not a biocide that kills all those microbes, but one that helps increase the viability of our soil. So I'm told I'm over.